What if it doesn't work? Whoops. We're starting hot tonight. Hi, I gotta pull myself together to do this in a professional manner. Hi, I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and I am joined by my alter ego, Lola, who clearly just stole the show right there. Um, this is my 64th live from the studio. You can see my backdrop set. One part of Bella's bedroom is a little bit different. We decided to decorate a little bit differently this time. And I am excited for this live because I have so much to tell you about, as usual. Almost every time I do a live, I'm like, what am I telling them about? And ooh, I got a lot. So I hope you have your knitting. I hope you have some tea or a beverage or something, whatever, something to wet your whistle and keep you happy. I've got my tea over here to my, this is my left, to my left. And for those of you that are new to my lives, if you are watching live, there is a chat box while you're watching live that you all can chat in. And I try not to look at the chat box too much. I have it over here on my right because I get distracted very, very easily. So if you have any questions while I'm talking about something live, towards the end of the live, I will ask if there's any questions and I'll look over there and read the questions. If I manage to see one because I just glance over and see something I can answer, I will do that quickly, but I can't promise I'll see them. Oftentimes somebody else in the chat will know the answer to a question you have. So you can put one in there, but know that I might not see it till towards the end when I ask you if you have any. Anything I talk about, once this live is over and I've kind of like, I don't know, gone to the bathroom and shaken off all my like whatever feelings I have, because they take a lot of energy to do, I will post links to everything I talked about. So everything I talked about within like a half hour of the live being over, those links will be below. So that's all my housekeeping. It's the housekeeping I do every time. Some of you have watched many of my lives. You know how this works. Towards the end of the live, I will announce the winner of the last lives giveaway and tell you what the prompt is and what your prize is going to be for this live's giveaway. So you definitely kind of want to watch till the end to see if you won the last one and also to enter yourself in the next giveaway. I'm attempting to knit tonight while I do this. We will see if I am capable of doing that. I'm working a pretty easy knit that is just a 2-row repeat and I can kind of feel what's happening. So we'll see. And maybe I'll show you a little bit what I'm doing, but it's something for farther on down the line. I'm trying to get some designs kind of happening and out of the way. I see lots of people joining. As you're joining, I see that you are saying where you're joining us from, and that is always very fun to see. So say where you're coming in from. As I said, I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region. I live just outside of Ithaca, and I feel like I haven't seen the sun since I left Florida last week. Maybe it's been sunny here once, but I don't have any kind of memory of seeing the sun. And I don't know about you all. I know we're getting to the shortest day of the year, but I'm a little tired. Like it's just a little dark and the days are short and not a lot of energy. I took extra vitamin D today in hopes that would like give me that little sparky something. But I think we're all feeling it. I don't think I'm alone in this like, oh my gosh, some more gray. Yay. Yay, gray. Max is saying goodbye, walking out of the studio, so now we can get spicy because there's no judgment happening from behind the camera. Here we go. It's just you and me. Uh, so things that I'm going to tell you about tonight are my phenomenal trip that I took to Spain with just an amazing group of knitters, and that was for Barcelona Knits. I'm going to talk to you about the knits that are off my needles, the knits that are on my needles. I'm going to show you some yarns I brought back with me from Spain, some fabric I brought back that I'm very excited to sew with this winter, and then I'll talk with you about what I'm like listening, watching, reading into right now. So I try to keep these lives to around an hour. I already have wasted 6 minutes doing a very long intro. So let's jump right into the good stuff. And the first thing that people almost always ask me is what I am wearing. So to kind of knock that out of the way, I am wearing a version of Boublay, which was the November Lola's Choice design. And the kit that everybody got in Lola's Choice looks a little bit different than this. I wanted to show you all how easy it is to knit up that design in other yarns. So I'm going to show you Boublay, but the other thing I want to tell you about, because I know somebody's going to ask about that, is that flower panel behind me. I told you about in the last live, and I said I was going to attempt to make one at a creative retreat I was going to, and I was inspired by this designer, Layla Robinson Design. She's out of the UK, and she makes these really beautiful flower panels. All the flower panel is some chicken wire that I found underneath of my shed, and then the 4 borders or edge that I stretched the chicken wire on are actually spines from an old bamboo rake that we had lying around, and we just kind of cut the curved end of the bamboo rake, and then I held them kind of in a rectangle and stretched the chicken wire around it. It was really fun to just kind of go into the shed and go underneath the shed and then find whatever I needed and not have to go buy anything. And then I was taking a workshop on a dried flower wreath, and I showed up with this frame and was like, can I make a frame instead of a wreath? And the woman was really, really sweet about it from, I think it's called My Little Posies in Newfield, New York. And so she let me use the flowers to do this, and I really love it a lot. It's been living in the living room, and then I'm bringing it up here sometimes, but it'll kind of get moved back and forth, I think, because it's fun to walk by every day. So that is the story. Oh, and then the other thing I'm wearing is Tosca vest. And Tosca vest I designed in 2020, and I'm just going to stand up so you can see it, because I actually wear this vest a ton, and whenever I wear it, people ask me about it. It's the side-to-side vest that has pockets in the side panel, so you can kind of have your tissue right there or your phone. My old phone fits in pretty well right there on the side right there, for when you don't have pockets, and it's a great layering piece in the winter. So I tend to wear it a lot. So that's what I'm wearing. And I want to show you Boublay because it's kind of like a natural extension to me wearing one. I've got some photos. The original Boublay that Lola's Choice members got this pattern and the yarn and beads to knit this for November. All of those kits are sold out. Boublay is a one skein kind of mini bandana, and it starts down at, this tip down here, and it's worked with bobbles on the border. So what happens is those bobbles become a really great accent as you are wearing it around your neck. And it's thin enough yarn that you can just kind of tie it around your neck, either in that kind of stewardess style or wear it the way I'm wearing the one right now as more of a like bandana with both ends tied together. And you can see that on Boublay, on the bottom border, I put beads onto the bobbles, which I've always wanted to do. I was like, I'm putting beads on bobbles. And I'll tell you that when I first just started designing this piece, I'll show you the yarn in a second. I have a kit to show you. I thought that I was going to do fingerless mitts. So I was pretty sure that I was going to do fingerless mitts with bobbles on the bottom. And I wasn't really having fun knitting it, and I didn't really like the way it was looking. And then I kind of reimagined the whole thing. And the yarn that I used is from Earth Yarns. It's unique Earth Yarns. And these are their little mini skeins for like kid socks. It's a self-striping yarn. And so club members actually got 2 balls so that they could make one Boublé for themselves and then one as a present. And then they got these super cute little puffin tins that I found when I was in Iceland last summer. And they got 2 different colors of beads so they could make their boublés a little bit different. And then that's a piece of super floss in there that is for placing those beads. So Boublay comes with a little video tutorial for working baubles. It shows you my tips and tricks for working baubles, the way that I like to work baubles the best. And then also how to place those beads. It's really crinkly, I'm sorry. Place those beads onto your baubles. One of the things that I'm loving about Boublay is how quickly everybody is like making Boublay their own. So the pattern is available on Ravelry and my website if you missed out on a kit, but you still want to knit a Boublay. One person, Sharon from Portugal, knit one in this like lovely cashmere white yumminess. It's got like a little bit of floof to it, and it's just like this halo cloud of a little scarf to tie on. So it's fun to see it like in a solid color white. This one was actually knit in 2 skeins of Freya fiber minikins. And I found I had 2 minikins just in stash that one of them kind of ended with a color that the other one started with. So I started down on this green side and then I worked towards the middle, and you can kind of see where I faded those 2 minikins together. And then I ended with the turquoise. But this I was knitting when we were in Spain, and it's such a great kind of pick it up and put it down project. So you can see how I tie it. I have learned when I put things on, the more I fuss, the less I'm happy with how I wear it. So there, I think I did pretty good. What I really try to do is make sure that the outside is out and not the inside. So that is Boublay. I heard somebody named Boublay won The Voice last night. That's exciting. One really funny thing about Boublay was naming Boublay was super funny because I was like, I knew I wanted to name it Boublay, but we couldn't decide how to spell it because I didn't want it to have B-O-O-B on it because I didn't want to get like blocked on YouTube or Ravelry or anything, or like have Instagram not show things because the word boob was in there. Sorry, I should probably not say that so much on YouTube. So we had all these different ways to spell it. And then I didn't want people to have to like try to understand how to pronounce it. So it's spelled, in the end, we spelled it Boublay. I kind of wanted to do like Boublez, which would be like Boublez, but then I just thought there could be confusion. So Boublay, pretty silly. Really fun knit. I hope those of you who have gotten that kit or bought the pattern are having fun knitting it. It's a great fast gift knit, which is always my goal with Lola's Choice for that November kit, is to do something that's a good gift knit for either you or somebody else. So I love throwing things on the floor when I'm done with them. That is Boublay. Other things off my needles are hodolas. And these I actually had to help knitting. This one I knit myself, and then this one, and then the other one I'm going to show you that I don't have up here that's in Susie Fiber MacGyver's yarn. I'm just going to show you all 3 of those. So this one right here is the hodola that I think that you saw this hodola during the last live, but it wasn't lined yet. And I said I was going to line it. So I did line it, and I'll show you what that looks like on the inside. I'm also adding some embroidery to that, which is really fun. This hodola is going to be for Bella for the holidays, and she requested that her front kind of be able to lock down a little bit. So I'm going to show you how I put a casing onto that for an I-cord so she can kind of tie it down and have it a little bit tighter around her face when it is cold at work. And then this is a third hodola that I have downstairs in my bin, and I've already been wearing a lot. And it is knit with 2 skeins of Fiber MacGyver in her like merino alpaca. I forget the name of this yarn right now. I showed it to you after Rhinebeck, and Marguerite helped me knit this one because I knew that I wanted one more, and especially I knew that this one was going to be out of commission for a little while because I am adding embroidery to it because I took an incredible embroidery class from a teacher, Nuria Picos, when I was at Barcelona Knits. And so I haven't done much more on it. I want it to be my entry in the Wrap It Up knit along in our Facebook group. So I said that I was going to finish it soon, but you can see that I've got some butterflies done and these really cool roses that I always wanted to learn how to make. And I'm making this little bullion stitch right now. They look like little slugs right here. I think I can get in closer on my Zoom so you can see what those stitches look like. There's little French knots right there. And this white fabric that I'm embroidering on, when I'm done with all of the embroidery, I will just wet it and it will dissolve. And you just kind of like wet it for a while until it dissolves. And then that will disappear and the embroidery will just be on the knit fabric. So very excited about that, hoping that I don't get too distracted by work knitting and that it gets done this year. In terms of the lining, I kind of wanted to show you what I did with the lining, and I'm trying to think of the best way to show this. I can kind of pull it out so you can see, but one of the problems with using a silk lining inside of a knit is the fabric doesn't stretch and the knit does stretch. So I needed to come up with a way that it would go over my head well. So if you look at the shape of the lining closely, all I did, let me kind of hold it up so you can see it. All I did was lay my hood down and trace out the shape of the hood and then give myself a little bit extra on the back for that seam allowance and on the top for the seam allowance. But then on the back, I actually did like a little split hem that I hand sewed, and then I hand sewed the bottom right there so that it opens up. I want to make sure you can see it. I'm just not showing to myself, so that it opens up at the back of the neck so that it will fit over my head, especially if I have a bun in the back. I kind of like protrude out a little bit back there. So that was something I had to think about as I got into it to make the lining work. But if you are like me and you're a curly girl and you don't like to crush your curls or have too much frizz on your hair, that works pretty well. And then Bella's, and she doesn't really watch my live, or if she is watching my live, I don't see her chiming in right now, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. And she knows she's getting it. This is a yarn from Cece's Wool that is like this lovely Shaniko wool tweed. And I put a casing on the inside. And if I kind of go to the overhead, you can see that what I did was pick up stitches along the I-cord, and then I worked and I picked up stitches like I think I picked up 3 in every 4 rows, because when I picked up 1 in every other row, it actually was too tight and it was like bulking in, kind of pulling it in too much. And then I worked probably like 10 or 12 rows of stockinette stitch with just a little bit of garter stitch at the end. And then I picked up stitches along that I-cord edge, the integrated I-cord edging at the beginning, and then bound off those live stitches all the way around. And that is a casing. I can actually get my finger inside of it. Let's make sure you can see that. And I've got an I-cord right now on my I-cord tool downstairs. And oh my gosh, I've never loved my I-cord tool so much as I do right now, because it would have been a really long I-cord to have to knit on double pointed needles. And I am just whipping that. Oh, Bella is here, little stinker. You just saw your present. Well, I don't want to show you the really amazing pom-pom I got for it. So I got the world's best pom-pom that Steffi wants to steal, Bella. It is so fun because I feel like everybody needs a pom-pom. And then finally for Bella, her hair is curlier than mine. So I spent way too much money and I bought this silk charmeuse that's a little bit stretchy for lining it. So I think that's going to help combat that, like having a lining that you want to stretch a little bit in your knit. So I'm just going to line it with this black. I know that my girl did not want anything too fancy inside her hood. She doesn't like to be too fun, just a little fun. So pretty exciting, that one. It's a good pom pom. Everybody, Bella has we have a tradition of me putting amazing pom poms on things for Bella, and that one's removable actually, so you can move it around to other things, or the kittens might like it. Speaking of which, very quickly, if anybody in the Baltimore area is looking for two kittens. Bella rescued some from work the other day. She works in a van in front of the Baltimore City Jail, and somebody found a kitten just kind of in the middle of the road, and she got it to come to her or sidewalk or something. And then she found its sibling a few hours later. So she has been taking care of them. They're doing great. We get daily kitten pics. I could probably pull up a daily kitten pic for you guys because they're adorable. Okay, here's our daily kitten pic. Overhead camera. Right, you guys? Look at them. They're so cute. We think that they're about 5 weeks old, 4 or 5 weeks old. They are using a litter box. They are eating solid food. They are bright. Bella, your Aunt Debbie wants daily kitten pics too. Could you please send some to her? They're adorable. And Bella, unfortunately, well, fortunately, she already has one amazing cat and she can't take on two more kittens. And I think our hope is to keep them together because they really love each other. And kittens, when they have another kitten, are so happy together. So if anybody in that area knows of somebody who wants two kittens, Bella can drive them to you. For the holidays, like if you have, I don't know, a 10-year-old, 13-year-old girl or boy or family member who would love a kitten, you could have a pretty amazing holiday present on your hands. Okay, I think I'm done like pushing the kittens, Bella. I'm gonna move on to, because this is like a knitting live, not a kitten live. Other thing off my needle is the Barcelola Cloche, and we're going to talk about that separately when we talk about Spain. And then on my needles, this is kind of the way we do this thing. I showed you the hoodola that I am working on finishing, not really on my needles, but it's a thing I'm stitching on. I have been getting ready to release the Novus DK jacket, which I know you all do not believe me, but I am teaching at Four Pearls the first weekend, full weekend in January. So January like 10th, 11th, 12th, I'm teaching. And one of the classes I'm teaching is the Novus DK jacket. And I've worn the jacket a lot. We already have tons of photos of it. And I keep wanting it to have a pocket. And the other day, I figured out how to add a pocket to a Novus jacket. So Max and I will end up doing a little video tutorial to show you how to do that. But I have, it's on my needles right now and it's going really, really well. It's basically like knitting itself. It is very hard to see this yarn. So if there's any mistake I made, the mistake I made was choosing such a dark yarn for a sample because it's so hard to show things on dark yarns. But basically, I picked up stitches in between the collar band and the side panel, and I picked up stitches along the bottom, and I'm working it just like a Novus panel in garter stitch going up, and I'll probably come up to about here and then do an Icelandic bind off on the top. So I'll do a sample in a lighter color, at least just like a mini, to show you how to do it if you have a Novus jacket or Novus sweater that you want to add a pocket to. You know me, never not figuring things out. And Audrey, I was thinking about you because I loved your Novus jacket when you were wearing it in Spain. I just glanced over at the chat, and it's really easy to do to a finished jacket. So it's kind of like an afterthought pocket, if you will. So anybody who tested Novus DK jacket, if they want to add the pocket, I can kind of describe to you what I did. It's one of those, it's more of a like a recipe or It's not really like pick up this many stitches, pick up this many stitches. It's a little more general than that, which makes it really easy. Um, Pretty cool. It's fun to see so many people from Spain in the chat. I love that. So, other things that are on my needles are the step outs for the January Lola's Choice pattern. We're going to try to get those shot, all that video next week so that we can kind of head into the holidays and be done with work. That will have a full length tutorial. I figured out a new way to use Stitch Saver, and the yarn for that kit is pretty freaking awesome. So if you're not signed up for Lola's Choice, you don't want to miss out on that one because you'll get to learn a new thing with me. You'll get some yarn that you probably have never knit with before. I don't know many people who have gotten to knit with this yarn, and that is me teasing you for as long as I can without telling you anything. And then the March Lola's Choice yarn got here. I have samples of it, so I've been playing with that and making some decisions about that. I also have the design for Patty Lyons's retreat on my needles. I am teaching a class on Stitch Saver, so I'm doing a design with Stitch Saver. It is a design that was once tabled, but I figured out a new thing to do with it. So I think that's all I'll tell you about that for now, but I feel almost like it's knitting itself. I'm having a very good time with it. And then I'm also swatching for the South America cruise designs. So I've got lots of design stuff happening on my needles, and one thing that I'm like really off and running and knitting on. But I have a photo shoot on Saturday, so I'm just finishing up a few loose ends for that. And then once we get to the holidays, I'll just get to like sit in my pajamas and knit on a few things, which I am really looking forward to because I've not had a ton of extended knitting time lately. N Club Sharon, I have that yarn in the running. I had a very successful time, and I'll talk about this more when I get to the Spain thing, finding yarns when I was at Barcelona Knits. So the N Club is basically all locked down for 2025 with yarns that I found in Europe that I think a lot of you have not knit with before, which is also always my goal. And there are still spots in the N Club. It'll close around the end of January. I kind of have to do a shut off time to get the first yarn ordered in time, but I'm quite excited about it. As always, those are always the really special designs. So yay, N Club. Yay, Lola. Yay. What else am I doing? You guys want to see photos of Spain before, because I don't want to show you the yarn I got in Spain until we look at photos of Spain, and then I'll talk about the design I did for Spain and show you the fabric and all that. So, I am going to start with Madrid. And our group met in Madrid, and such a fun trip and fun group. And I think this is almost everybody on the first day, which is amazing because there's a fair amount of jet lag. I know we're missing Hannah. She was not there yet. She came in a day later. But we went on a walking tour in Madrid City in the old town, and we had a great guide for the walking tour. And the feast of Almudena. So I feel like I should say ahead of time that I'm not going to pronounce things correctly, and I apologize ahead of time. Almudena. Feast of Almudena was happening in town that day. So there were a lot of people out and about in the streets, and I really loved Madrid. It had such a different energy than Barcelona. I loved them both, but there was something really kind of like sophisticated and like real people were living in Madrid. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And we walked around on the tour. We just got to see some highlights and learn a lot about the city. This is one of the main plazas that we walked through. I loved all of the like tile work on the stores. Like everywhere you walked, it just felt like everything was so like kind of thought out and had everyday functional art as a part of it, like really high design. Then, of course, on the first day of any tour, we went to a yarn store and we went to Miss Kit's in Madrid, and everybody did a little bit of damage. We all brought home a few skeins from that. And knowing that our suitcases were going to be very, very full by the end. And then we had a kind of welcome session where we all sat in a big circle, which was really fun to be able to be in a circle together instead of kind of in rows. And that is where we all introduced ourselves and I showed everybody the trip design. And then we had a big yummy meal together and all passed out. And it was the perfect start to a good long trip together. The next day, I don't have as many pictures of the next day. We went to a flea market in the morning, and then we went to the Museum de Traje, which is a costume museum that was dedicated to Spanish fashion. And as in museums like that, it's very hard to take photos because everything's behind glass and there's always reflections. But these three pieces in particular really stole my heart. So they are by, I think it's Fortuny on the left-hand side, who did that green jumpsuit with just like that amazing wrap cross. I mean, for me, that's a pretty low V-neck and I'd wear a bodysuit underneath that, but I really love the detailing on that. And I don't know if I could ever find a pattern to be able to sew a jumpsuit like that, but I really adored it. And then that next piece in the middle, I believe it's by Rodriguez. And I loved that high neck on it and that super, super fitted skirt, fitted waist with the skirt. I just really love the modern lines. And but on the right, that's also by Rodriguez. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's got these integrated pockets right at the like dropped waist where the skirt starts. And that's just like I would say like a long camp shirt for the top. And that one maybe I could figure out at some point, but it's so perfectly tailored and gorgeous and just like beige, right? It wasn't even really about the color. It was more about the lines on that. I love going to costume exhibits and fashion exhibits, especially like I like a runway show, and that's intriguing to me. But when something's on display and you get to really kind of look at it from every angle, that's one of my personal favorite things to do. This was another piece that was quite interesting. This is definitely crocheted, and it was like these, I thought that was a really interesting square motif that I kind of loved all the spokes of the wheel on it. And that was kind of like a long tunicky cardigan, but I was very intrigued by those spokes. That night, we had so much fun, and we went to a tapas making class where we basically cooked our dinners. I told everybody it was like a workatunity because they had to cook their dinner and then they got to eat it. And we had so much fun. I hesitate to say that this was a drinking tour, but somehow there was more drinking than I've ever had on any tour I've ever done. So as we were doing this trip, they just kept filling our glasses. I got lucky because I was working on the shrimp dish, so we had gloves on for the shrimp, so I couldn't drink as much. But magically, nobody seemed to have a hangover the next day after this night. It was so fun. So we had all these different stations and tables, and we had somebody assigned to us, and we had like it wasn't really a recipe. They just kind of told us what to do, and we followed along. And it was a really fun kind of like group bonding exercise. Here's Andrea kind of telling Sue something awesome. I wish I knew what she was saying right there. And then afterwards, we went downstairs to the basement and we ate all of our food, and it was so, so good. And I don't have pictures of that because I had such a hard time culling pictures from just our cooking extravaganza. That night, we went to bed. As I said, nobody woke up hungover. It was amazing. And we jumped in the bus and we took about a 2.5 hour-ish, maybe 2 hour drive into the La Mancha region to get to go to Wool Dreamers. And Y'all have heard me talk about Wool Dreamers before. I've worked with their Manchalopi yarn in La Lancha. I've used it in a few different designs, and they were gracious enough to welcome us to the mill. I did do like a whole mill video on my Instagram, so at some time if you want to watch different parts of the mill working, you could go ahead and go bop over there and watch that video. But these are just some photos. These are some sheep that they had out back, and there was like no sign outside of the mill. It was so interesting. And this is a mill that has been around for generations, and they do a lot of wool production for wool industry, and they've just started doing knitting yarns, I would say, in the last few years. So that's kind of newer for them, doing knitting yarns. But one of the things that's really unique about Wool Dreamers is they have their own scour. So they are bringing in a lot of wool, Spanish wool, from farms in Spain, and then they're able to sort it and clean it and mill it and do every step of the process, which is pretty incredible and unique for a mill to have. And I've always loved their yarns, but I have such a deep appreciation of their yarn. Oh, in this picture, I'm all the way over on the right-hand side, and I'm wearing Ola Lola that is knit in their Cautiva yarn, which is 100% Spanish wool that I absolutely adore. I was also wearing it in the Boublay pictures. Um, and then after our trip to Wool Dreamers, we all bought a lot of yarn. I'll show you what I got. And then we went to a pottery museum really quickly. I don't have a lot of photos of that. And then we walked around the town a bit, and I fell in love with that door in the middle. And I sent that picture to Max and Bella and asked them if I could have it. And then we went to see the windmills of La Cuenta or La Mancha, and they're up on a hill, and they're iconic windmills. They're like Don Quixote is from this area. You've seen pictures of these windmills before, and we just kind of scattered all over the hill to see the windmills. We had such incredible luck with the weather that I think the only day it rained on us that whole trip was a day we were in the bus, but it would stop raining every time we had to get out of the bus to do something. So we got very, very lucky. And then after that, just these guys up on the hill, so good. We had an incredible lunch at a little taverna that had really yummy wine from this winery that we went to after lunch. So that was another day where we enjoyed wine with our lunch. And then we went and did a wine tasting at Mount Riaga Winery. And that was very interesting to see their whole process, get to taste their wines, have a bit of a tour. You could see that they had these really big wine barrels for some of their wines. I think that this was their sweet dessert wine that they keep in these casks and age a bit. I think a few people got some and brought it home with them. I did not get any. And then the next day we left Madrid and we started on our way to Barcelona, and we stopped at a monastery called Monasterio de la Piedra. And this is a photo I took from the bus, and no photos I took did the landscape justice. It was an absolutely gorgeous, stunning drive. It was like deep fall, and all of the plantings were just these like beautiful, rich, earthy colors, and we're all trying to take photos of it. And then I gave up and I just watched it and like took pictures with my memory. But it was really one of my favorite drives. Not everybody loved that drive because we did have a very windy road getting up to the monastery, which was a little bit out of the way off of the main road going towards Zaragoza. And we stayed at the monastery overnight. And luckily, as we were like headed towards the monastery, there had been a bunch of flooding in Spain right before we went, and the waterfalls around the monastery had all suffered damage, so we couldn't do the nature hike that we had thought we were doing. And they still were able to welcome us to the monastery, and they had rooms available for us, and the restaurant was running. But as we were going, I've learned with trips to do this, and I was like, okay, guys, either this monastery is going to be the most amazing place we've ever stayed in our lives, and we're going to be so sad that we're leaving it, and know that we're going to come back here with our families or on another tour again. Or it's not going to be all that, and we're going to be really excited we only have one night here. And we ended up somewhere in the middle. It was really beautiful. Because they were very short staffed in the kitchen, the meals took a very, very long time, which is just kind of like traditional for Spain anyway. We all learned to bring our knitting to our meals. We knew that they were going to be long and involved, and move at a really like sweet, slow pace, right? But the monastery itself was a 12th century monastery, and most of it had been rebuilt, or parts of it had been rebuilt, so you could really walk around, but parts of it were kind of still crumbling. So they did a really incredible job restoring and yet leaving it kind of a little raw, so you understood how old it was. And we were staying in the main part of the building in rooms that were monk cells, and those had all been redone, but they were not fancy, but it was perfect for one night. I think here's another photo of kind of like inside one of the naves with the paintings and mosaics, and you can see it's like restored to a level. These photos, I just kind of wanted to give you the scale of things. There Lori and I are, and you can see that wall behind is that wall I took a photo of 2 photos before. Everything was quite tall. The walls were very, very high. It was really, really beautiful there. Absolutely stunning. This was my classroom that I taught in. So I taught a class on the Barcelola Cloche while we were at the monastery, and it was a gorgeous classroom. So it was actually a great space for kind of stopping, having a knitting class, capturing our breath after being in Madrid before we were kind of like resetting and going to Barcelona. So on to Barcelona. On the way to Barcelona, we stopped in Zaragoza, and it is a sweet little town. And I actually think the next time we do this trip, we'll stay in Zaragoza instead of staying overnight in the monastery. I think it'll just make a little bit more sense. They had great fabric stores in this town, and really good chocolate places. And then this was like a grate on the floor of the cathedral in Zaragoza that I just like, isn't that a shawl? Don't you see a shawl? I see a shawl. So maybe the N Club, this is going to be an inspiration for an N Club piece, because I really, really see a shawl coming straight out of there. Then after we left Zaragoza, we went to another meal. This is like the eating and drinking happy people photo. And this was one of those meals that will like go down in my memory as one of the best meals I've ever had. So we stopped in this tiny little town called Picamox, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Picamoixons. So I'm gonna butcher it if I try to say it. And the company that I work with had found this little restaurant, and it got great reviews. I kind of checked it out to make sure it looked good. And they sat us all down, and they had really incredible wine on the table and gorgeous salads. And it was just like a spectacular meal. We were all taking bites off of each other's plates, which normally I would never do because everything was so good and you like didn't want to miss out. And then afterwards, I just saw Susie said she had a pork cheek that was one of the most amazing meals I'd ever had. So this was our rainy day, and the people wearing the pink jackets are all from Florida. They're all friends from Florida, and they had gone to a retreat together where they had gotten those pink raincoats, and they brought them with them. But it stopped raining for our walk to and from this restaurant. And this town was like one of those towns that was so ancient and old that the roads get really, really narrow as you go into it. So we actually had to park the bus kind of outside of town. And then we walked not super far, like, a quarter mile or a third of a mile to the restaurant through the little like winding streets and alleyways. It was freaking superb. And this photo says it all. And then, because we hadn't had enough wine at lunch, we had a sangria making class in Barcelona right when we arrived in Barcelona. And I kind of thought everybody was not going to go and they were going to be done, but no, they did, right? Susie's laughing. Sangria class. Yay. So fun. We learned how to make traditional sangria. I'm still waiting to get that recipe from the hotel. I have emailed approximately 10 times. I also have the company that I work with working on that as well. So here's everybody looking very happy after our sangria class. We learned three different ways to make sangria. The guys who led it were really, really fun. We had a great time, as you can tell. And then we went on and had a yummy meal. And then the next day we slept hard. Oh, Bella joined us. So Bella joined us, and she didn't come with us the next morning, but we went to La Sagrada Familia and had a fabulous tour of the cathedral. Some people in our group had been here before and not been able to go inside because it's still under construction. I think they believe they'll be done in like 2030, building La Sagrada Familia. It's the last project that Gaudi was working on when he was killed. So, it was really incredible inside. And this was just like some kind of wire fencing around one of those columns on the outside of it. Again, I see a knitting pattern right there. I cannot help but see a knitting pattern when I look at that. This is just looking straight up at the ceiling of the cathedral. And I don't have too many photos because there's better photos online if you want to learn about La Sagrada Familia or look at photos. But it was as incredible as I thought it was going to be on the inside. And the stained glass windows were stunning. They were all primary. The way Gaudi placed the cathedral, he had like the blue windows looking towards the ocean and the green and the brown kind of looking up towards the mountains. He really like placed it in relation to the land. The light was so pretty. And then after La Sagrada Familia, we kind of had the afternoon off. I want to make sure I get this straight. And then we went to an espadrille class and we learned about the traditional Catalan espadrille. And then we all made espadrilles, and it was pretty funny. I don't know how many of us are going to end up wearing our espadrilles, but we learned a lot, and it was crafty for sure. We got into it. And then that evening we went on to Casamila, which is Gaudi's last residential project that he ever did. And we had a night tour of Casamila where we learned about the building. And then we went up onto the roof and had a light show on the roof. It was like a private light show for our group. And the moon was out, and it was pretty incredible and magical to watch happen. And it reminded me of when I was a kid, like maybe I was 9 or 10, we came up to Watkins Glen, and there used to be a Pink Floyd laser light show inside Watkins Glen in like I guess that was the 70s, early 80s. And if you go to Watkins Glen now, you can actually still see some of like the light structures that they had inside the Glen for doing that. And it reminded me a little bit of that, but much more tasteful. Like they had music that was timed to the light show. It was beautiful. I was really glad that we got to experience it. And then the next day we all went back, hopefully got some sleep. I think they ended that night with some kava, but I did not have it that night. I was like, I need a break. We went to Montserrat. And so we got up in the morning and we jumped on a train with our fearless tour guide, Cecilia, who was so amazing. She led all 28 of us into the train station and down into the train, and we all got on the right train, and we took the train up to Montserrat, which is a monastery high up in the mountains. Absolutely gorgeous and glorious up there, and none of my photos do it justice. It was a bit of a gray day. It didn't rain, so things came out like a little bit flatter because there wasn't any sun. And then once I got inside the cathedral, I did not take any photos. I just really experienced it with my eyeballs. We got to see the Black Madonna, which was I was shocked by how moved I was seeing her. So we went up in a line and everybody kind of like got a moment with her. And then that night, not to be outdone, once we left the monastery, we went out to see flamenco and we had a dinner and flamenco experience. And this is one where I was like, okay, I haven't done this before. It might be a tiny bit cheesy. It was not cheesy. It was amazing. The dancing was incredible. It was superb. There was so much energy. There was sweat flying off them as they danced. The guitar, I can't recreate it for you, except to tell you that it's a highlight of my life going to that flamenco show. And then at the very end, what was super sweet was it was a family that was dancing and performing. And at the end, the kids came out with them, and the 9-year-old danced, and that little toddler that she's holding up danced for us. And there was just like so much love amongst the performers and so much pride in their Catalan history and culture and tradition. It was really, really beautiful. I'm so glad that we did that. And then after that, it was time for us to go on to Barcelona Knits. And I took that class that I told you about with Nuria Picos. Everybody in our group took a class that was signed up as a knitter, got to choose a class at Barcelona Knits and take it. This class, interestingly, was in Spanish, but Nuria did speak some English, so she was able to help us out, which was excellent. We also used live Google Translate that actually translates as people speak, so that was pretty awesome too. And here's examples of that embroidery, but I already showed it to you in real life. And then Barcelona Knits itself, this is a picture from Saturday, and it was a little crowded for me. So I actually went later in the day on Saturday, and I went again on Sunday, and the rooms were much less crowded on Sunday. There was some yarn that was sold out. So if there were things that you really, really wanted, then I guess you would want to get there Saturday. But I have enough yarn, and I'm more of a fan of going when things are not quite as crowded. And I've learned that with yarn festivals in general. But there were so many vendors that I'd never seen before and really interesting yarns. And there I am with I forget his name. I feel so bad. Ramon. I'm sorry, Ramon. From Wool Dreamers. They had a booth there, so it was fun to have seen them in La Mancha and then get to see them in Barcelona. And their stall was just packed with people shopping. And then on Sunday, the last thing we had before our goodbye dinner was a class with Carol Feller, because she was there with a group from Ireland. So that was really awesome to get to have a seeking class with Carol. And then on Monday, I actually got to meet up with a dear old friend who I went with to Lapland and who had traveled with me to Ireland before. This is my friend Isabel. She's from Switzerland, and we had a really fun day together. And I had heard about the Palau de la Música Catalana from some other people in our tour, and they told me it was not to be missed. And it was not to be missed. These columns are all mosaic, and they were each one individually absolutely inspiring and stunning. Everything about this opera hall it's done by all of these different craftsmen, like mosaic artists and potters and stained glass artists and welders. There was just so much craftsmanship. I think it was done in the Art Nouveau era. So that's the ceiling, and it's all stained glass and just like, oh my, breathtaking. And those are all these like ceramic roses going around the outside of it. No photos could do it justice. It was breathtaking. We just sat and looked at it for quite some time. This is a pretty cool photo that Bella got, that I really love, that just kind of gives like the scale of everything. And then that night we went out for paella along the beach, because for as many days as we'd been in Barcelona at this point, I hadn't seen the beach yet. So we went down the beach a ways, and oh, whoops, that photo's in the wrong place. We'll just ignore that. And had paella, and it was yummy and fun to do. And the next day, my daughter Bella was with me, and we just had an adventure exploring day. And we found this incredible shop with all wax batiks from Africa that were some really interesting patterns, and she made clothing out of them, but I ended up just buying some yardage. I'll show you. And we saw some bags made with the Miyako handles that everybody in the N Club got last year at a fabric shop called Nunonia. That was a superb fabric shop. And then I did take some photos of some octopuses as well. And this was this really incredible wire octopus we just kind of stumbled along at one point. So I think that is all the Spain photos. That was a lot. Are you guys still with me? I hope you are. It's fun to do, and I always worry those take too long, but hopefully you got some knitting done and you learned a bit about our adventure to Spain. I do want to show you the design that I did for Spain because I think it will release before I do another live. And so I'm going to show it to you now. But and I'll tell you about the kits and when they're going to release. I'm not sure if they're going to release in January or if the yarn is going to get here in time to release them kind of that last week of the year. And the yarn is from Wool Dreamers. So Wool Dreamers gifted everybody in our group this absolutely gorgeous merino yak. The merino is from Spain, and then the yak is from Mongolia. And it is a yarn that they're not making anymore. They did like a very small run of this yarn. It is a sport weight. It feels so good against the skin. And when I first got it, because everybody was making getting two skeins, I was like, well, I'll do a cowl. But I kind of knew that we were on the end of Cowtober, and that we all probably had enough cowls at that point. I think I was like, I don't feel like designing another cowl. And I remembered the cloche that we had all talked about from Wicked Little Letters. I think I showed that to you a few lives ago. I was really like intrigued by the cloches in Wicked Little Letters. And I was like, oh, this is the perfect cloche yarn because it can be knit densely, which a cloche wants to be, but it also feels really good against the skin, which is important when you have, for me anyway, when I have wool up against my forehead, it needs to be something that's really soft. And the merino and the yak together are yummy, and it's gorgeous to work with. And it also did very well with pre-strung beads on it. So I decided to do a cloche that had beads along the cloche band. So it's called Barcelola. Sue came up with that excellent name. We say Barcelola or Barcelola, whatever you'd like. And it is started from the top. It is worked down in the round, and then there's some short rows added for shaping. You can kind of really see that shaping in there. And then you go down in needle size and cut your yarn and pre-string on your beads in order so that you can slip them up in front of stitches. And then you switch to a bigger needles. Oh, sorry. You stay with the smaller needle and you work Lola's two timing technique to make two layers of fabric. And you keep all of your stitches on your stitch saver for Lola's two timing technique. And that's where you wrap your yarn around your stitch saver as you work a whole round. And then you switch to a bigger needle and you work the brim. And then you turn the brim, and the inside of the brim is worked with a coordinating color of Cautiva. So you have this little hint of color on the inside of the brim. And then you slide all of the stitches from the stitch saver onto a needle and work a knit two together, bind off, just like I think we did in Ultimate Hat. And really what that brim ends up being is reverse shaping from the larch peds. So we were talking about it, all of us when we had the class on Barcelola, and it's really easy to see like where I'm pulling concepts from different designs and building them together in new ways. It's really fun for me to have, especially in a year of design, to have one thing kind of building off of the next thing. So Lola's pickup line happened when I was doing Bling Bag. This beading is actually the same technique that I did on Bling Bag, and the top and the bottom. This is inspired by the cuff from Larch Peds and then by that movie I watched. And it comes in 3 different sizes. I think I have to take down my my bun to get it on. This one is, let's see if I can remember. I think this one is the smallest size. And I love the way the small size fits on me. This one is the bigger size. It's the medium size. And you can see on me, it's a little bit big. It's perfect on my friend Steffi. I can still wear it if you kind of want like an oversized cloche look. And then because I couldn't help myself, I did another small size. And this one, I tried something someone brought up in the Ravelry group. Here, I'll get rid of that hand tie, where I switched to the contrast color before I did the purl ridge for the turn. So while I was still on the bigger needle, just so you could see the contrast color on the outside of the brim. So I'm going to write that into the pattern so people have the option to do that if they want to have that little peak of color right there. The yarn, I'm just going to keep this on because it's fun. The yarn is shipping right now from Spain. It left yesterday or today. So, and the beads are here and we're going to start measuring them this weekend, and the postcards are here. So as soon as I can have the kits together, I've got them in 6 different beading colors. I bought all of the yarn that Wool Dreamers had left in this color. So it's all mine, and that's going to be how many kits there are. There's enough, I hope, for everybody to get at least 1 or 2. We'll see how it goes. I think so. It's a lot. I bought a lot of yarn. It was very funny at lunch that day as I was like having my glass of wine at lunch. I was like, you guys, I just bought a lot of yarn. It's a little scary. So those kits will go up if you're on my mailing list or follow me on social media or Ravelry. You'll know. I know some of you are very excited about them. It is a really fun, fast knit. Obviously, I've already knit 3. I'm going to knit more. The turquoise is great. There are lots of good colors to choose from. I promise it's going to be, it's a fun one. It's a really fun one. I'm going to keep it on because I just feel like it matches. It kind of goes with everything, which I also love. Let's have show and tell. This is never going to be over. I know I love the little, I can see people in the chat. I'm trying not to, because I love it too. And thank you. I'm glad you do too. So this is a piece of fabric I got from that really incredible African clothing shop, and I'm going to make a bag out of it. It wants to be a tote bag or something interesting. Could be a few knitting bags. It's kind of like all my favorite colors wrapped up into one really fun print. I don't think that I would do a piece of clothing because I think it's too fun for me as clothing, but it is not too fun to be a bag. So I got that piece of fabric. And then at Nunonia, I also got this really lovely, yummy rayon. And this will be like a little summer dress. I'll probably put this away. Or it might be one of those tunics that I've made a few of because I haven't made one in a while. I think it's Sonia Phillips dress number 1 or dress number 2. It looks very good with my flower panel right there. And then, oh, this one I'm so excited about. This is a jersey that I think it's like a modal, like, or a tencel jersey, and it's stretchy. And I'm just going to make myself a shirt because the shirt looks like me. And I think my friend Debbie's watching. It also looks like my friend Debbie. I'm hoping I got enough for more than one shirt because it looks like both me and Debbie. But Debbie and I basically look like sisters. So it makes sense that we look great in the same fabric. So that's fabric I bought. And then yarn, I bought a bunch of yarn I can't show you because it's for future club stuff for the N Club. So I just have to be like, sign up for the N Club if you want to find out about that yarn. There's my little tiny plug. But I did get 2 sweater quantities of yarn, which I haven't done in a while. For a while, I'd just been buying like single skeins of yarn and then being frustrated that I hadn't bought enough. So I got a sweater quantity of Wool Dreamers Saona. And I want to do a low lancha light in it, or a low lanchita kind of thing, because I love my sweater low lancha. I'll link to it below when this is over in case you don't know what it is. But it's in a Aran weight yarn, and it's too heavy to wear except when it's like deep, deep winter. And that design would be so great in this yarn. This one is a 50% wool, 50% cotton. This color is like a very denim-y, fun color. It's going to be very, very wearable. And I think we all love La Lancha, but since it's heavy, it doesn't get worn as much as we want to wear it. So I think that is my goal for this yarn. And I already, oh, this is true story right here. So this swatch right here, I already knit up with the Saona, and it's a little too big gauge wise. Like it's not, it's messy. If I put it in the overhead camera, you'll see. I worked it with my knitting a swatch in the round trick, but you can see it's a little too loosey-goosey. But when I was working my gauge swatch, I was like, I'm so good. I can remember everything. I don't need to tie knots onto my string so I can remember what size needle I used. I did not. I think I used a 6 on this. I think I'm going to go down to a 5 or a 4 and try again. But I'm a bad person for doing that because I know better than that. Luckily, on the next yarn that I got, that is so pretty, and it's my spirit color. This is called La Madriana. It is a Spanish wool. It is a limited production Spanish wool. It's a little bit hardy. When you knit it up, it gets much softer, kind of like the way Shetland wools do. It is a light fingering weight, kind of light fingering weight. If you look at this color under the camera, it's like an orange red, but it actually has like every color in it, like greens and purples and blues, and it knits up gorgeously. And I'm going to do some kind of lightweight sweater in it because I want some more lightweight sweaters in my life. I think I thought I had an idea. I think I've changed my mind because I really need to table this until I get stuff done for South America. And I think the La Lancha Light makes sense to work on first. You guys are really getting some hints about what's coming down the pike in 2025 right now. So those are yarns that I can show you along with that gorgeous Wool Dreamers that I used for the Barcelola Cloche. In terms of sewing, when I went to the creative retreat, besides making that, it's called Flare, the retreat I went to, besides making that panel, I made a Sandhill sack from Noodlehead, and I wore this all over Barcelona and Madrid. It got a ton of use. This fabric on the front is actually, I got it in Scotland at, what is the name of that? At Ardlandish Mill. And it's in the Outer Hebrides, I believe. I'm sorry that I'm forgetting that right now. But it is all naturally dyed with lichens from the beach right around that mill. And we took the ferry out to the mill. It was an absolutely gorgeous day. And I got just 1 meter of this fabric. And I realized that it's really good for using on bags. I'm not really like wear a like wool skirt kind of girl. I'm not going to the office very often. So this is a great way for me to use like special wool fabrics like that. And this bag was so functional. Bella has asked for one for the holidays in black, which is boring, but we're going to do something fun on the inside and it'll be like a really functional bag for her, but I really love it. If I make one again, I used canvas and I interfaced it, but I might do 2 layers of interfacing just to get it a little stiffer. It's really soft and it's like you want it to have just a little bit more structure than it has. It wasn't the easiest sew because all of these corners had curves and curves are hard for me. I just wanted to say that because sometimes people ask me like, how easy was that? And it was a challenging one for me. Finally, before we get to like the listening, watching, reading part, when I went to Florida to visit my parents, my girl came with me for Thanksgiving and I got us a new pot holder loom. I got the large size pot holder loom and this incredible book that blew both of our minds because it's like pot holders on steroids. And I've always just done like the traditional pot holder, but this one has these like crazy cool patterns and ways of weaving with your pot holder loom that are different than I ever thought about before. And the really cool ones that Bella made, she took with her already and brought back to Baltimore. Um, so I have this one that's fine. It's just like not as cool as the other ones that she did. And then this is an example is the traditional size pot holder loom that I've had since I was like a kid. And we got new pot holder loops last year and made some. This is our toaster pot holder. But I've always felt like it wasn't big enough for like taking something out of the oven. And the large size pot holder loom I got at Rabbit Row in Corning with a bunch of different size loops. And so I'm going to crank a few of those out next week as gifts and just like play around with this book. This is kind of my like holiday week play. And then I think we're gonna go to Baltimore for New Year's Eve, and I'll bring it with me and play some more there. Just have some like fun crafting time. Um I think I see people talking about straps on the bag. The bag strap, I just had it short for showing you, so it's actually adjustable and you can make it really long if you want it to be really long, or you can make it short, which is really nice. Um, I like bag making. I'm surprised by how much I like bag making. I have a lot of clothing right now, honestly, and I also have a lot of bags, so it doesn't totally make sense. But if I had lots of time, I would make bags for the first quarter knit along. Speaking of the first quarter knit along, I know some of you are still watching. I haven't lost you all yet. There is going to be a first quarter knit along in the Ravelry group. I know some of you have noticed that I've been leaning very hard into knit alongs in Facebook and not as much into knit alongs in the Ravelry group. I definitely did Caltopus in the Ravelry group. It's a great place for holding mystery knit alongs. And that is because I can look at the stats of knit alongs, like how many people are involved, how many people are reading posts, how many people are posting, how many projects are posted. And over the last 3 years, there's been a significant drop of people getting involved on Ravelry and doing knit alongs. So they take a ton of energy, and they also cost me a lot of money because I do prizes every week that I buy for you all, and then I ship them all out. And I am happy to do it. It's like it's in the marketing budget to do it, but I need you all to like get involved and do the first quarter Cal with me. It's very fun. We've done it the last, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. So we're going to do it again. I'm just going to remind you, you got to do it. So one of the other things about the Facebook group that is interesting is in the Facebook, this is going to be like businessy for a second. In the Facebook group, I get new eyeballs. So when somebody shares something in the Facebook group, it can get shared outside of the Facebook group. So somebody who's a knitter might see somebody else's project from that post and then want to join the group and find out about my designs. In Ravelry, there isn't really like that opportunity for new eyeballs. You have to like know about me, know about my group. I think that that's great because it creates a really safe space on Ravelry where like people are there because they know each other. We're like come together over a common cause. But I will say in my Facebook group that we are managing to keep it really light and fun, and the energy is really good. I have some moderators along with myself, Susie and Dee, and myself, who make sure that anything funky that comes up is like out of there straight away. We are really on it, and it's been fun to do knit alongs there. So right now there's a knit along there, kind of the wrap it up knit along, and then the first 3 months of the year we'll do the first quarter knit along in the Ravelry group. And I know some people are more Facebook focused and some people are more Ravelry focused. So it's working for me to do some in one place and some in another place and keep you all entertained and knitting, right? Because I'm certainly staying entertained and knitting for sure. That was my little high horse for a sec. In terms of like my entertainment, I've been listening to a Liane Moriarty book. There's a new one called Here One Moment. I'm not loving it, but it's entertaining me for listening. I did just finish listening to a podcast about the costuming in Wicked that I loved. That was great. That was in Dressed, which is one of my favorite podcasts about fashion history. So that if you're looking for a new podcast, it's one of my faves. I know I've talked about it before. Reading, I've been reading The Wedding People by Alison Espach. That was brought up in one of my book groups. I don't think they ended up choosing it as the book group, but I read the description and I decided I wanted to read it. It's a little depressing, but also great. So I'm I'm gonna see that one all the way through. And then in terms of watching, the other day on Facebook, I asked everybody like what their favorite current holiday rom-com is, because I love to ask that every year. I always find out about new ones. Hallmark has just been cranking them out right now. And somebody mentioned The Christmas Quest, which is on Hallmark Channel, and I actually watched it last night. The only way to watch it is to see when it's scheduled to play, and I can see it through my Peacock subscription. And it's set in Iceland. It's about the Yule lads. So if you know that story of the Yule lads in Iceland, it's like a traditional Icelandic folk tale, and it's about the treasure they hid. And there's also like a rom-com piece to it. There's an adventure piece to it. It was horrible. I loved it. So highly suggest that one if you have access to Hallmark. Um, and then the other thing I watched is my friend Andrea in Texas told me that she was on YouTube and YouTube suggested that she watched this documentary about the making of the Christian Dior 2025 cruise collection, which was inspired by Mary Queen of Scots and set in Scotland. And they used all Scottish fabrics and Scottish artisans, and they had kilts made by a kind of modern kilt maker in Edinburgh. They used lots of Harris tweeds that they designed for the collection. The whole show was actually shown at a castle in Scotland where they like did the gardens to match the vibe of the show. So I linked to that in my email today, and I'll link to the documentary below. But after I watched it and they did part of the show, and I haven't watched the whole show yet, I started like looking at Women's Wear Daily and trying to find other images from the cruise, from the collection. And I just have 3 photos to show you. 3 wedding dresses. So most of the collection is like pretty dark and black and purple and like punk. And then they just had these 3 white pieces. There was one more that had a blanket over it. And I swear that they are all Shetland lace. So I'm going to post this probably on Facebook or something tomorrow or later tonight, because I have no idea who knit these or like what the backstory is. I couldn't find anything about it when I was reading about it. And I'll try to like tag a few people if you want to do some searching with me to try to sleuth it out. It's so interesting. It is so much knitting. I don't see how that could be machine knit. It's all Shetland lace motifs. Um, Phenomenal. And I know you can't see them super well on your screen, but I'll try to get you better images on social media so that you can see them a little bit more closely. I highly suggest watching those shows on YouTube. Just Google like Dior Cruise 2025 YouTube and some stuff will pop right up. It was really I mean, I just watched it yesterday and I'm so jazzed about it. Poor Max, I couldn't stop talking about not being able to find information on those dresses. Poor dude, what he puts up with. In terms of eating, not a lot of eating, was a lot of eating in Spain and for Thanksgiving. So I'm trying to like dial it down a little bit before the next holidays come around. I did get invited to a cookie swap on Saturday afternoon that I'm hoping I can go to. And I was trying to come up with something that did not need an oven, because I still don't have a big oven. I just have my toaster oven, and gluten-free because I'm still gluten-free. And I think I have not made chocolate salted caramels in forever. And there's a Smitten Kitchen recipe from like 2006 that I used to make all the time. I made it a lot. It was like the hot thing. Everybody was making salted chocolate caramels. So I think I'm going to make those Friday night and make that my trade at the cookie swap, and hopefully that will like cut it, and people will probably just eat them all there because they taste just like Tootsie Rolls and they're so good. I can't wait to make them. So that is everything I think I have to tell you. If you have any questions, now's the time to throw them in the chat. I will look over there in a second. I am going to tell you about the winner of last week's live and then give you the prompt, which I still have to think of what that prompt should be, for the winner of the thing I have not told you about for this live. And then we're going to say goodnight. I don't see any questions coming in. The only thing that I see from Karen is, what about macarons? Macarons are great, but they take forever. No, they need an oven. They are gluten-free, but you do need a big oven. And in my experience from when my daughter used to make them, they get every dish in the kitchen dirty, and they're yummy. Oh, the simple coconut ones. Yeah. Just coconut, egg, sugar. Totally. The other thing I love to make, but I would have to make a ton of batches to make them, are meringues with chocolate chips in them. So yummy. And those are gluten-free as well. Maybe I could just buy them from Trader Joe's and then like bag them up really nice and pretend that I made them. Or like buy the ones from Trader Joe's and dunk them in chocolate halfway and call that my cookie swap. We'll come up with something that I can get done so that I'm a contributing member to the cookie swap, and pretty fun. Cool. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in. I'm just looking back. Oh, I see a question about my turquoise ring, which I've been wearing ever since any of you have ever known me. And that was a good question. Thank you for asking that, Sarah. This ring, actually, my uncle got for my mom when he was going to medical school in Mexico in the 60s. And yeah, like mid 60s, he got it in Mexico. And I found it in my mom's jewelry box when I was like 15 or 16, and I have been wearing it ever since. And I don't even know what I would do if it wasn't on my hand. It's so me entirely. It's just like it's part of my spirit. But it's got a good story, and I don't know where it's from in Mexico or who made it. I know that it's silver. I'm not sure I can even get it off right now to see if there's any markings on the inside. But we use it a lot in photos because it's kind of just this like nice pop of color. So Maureen says the gluten-free lemon cranberry bars for Thanksgiving were really good. New York Times recipe. Okay, I'll check that out. And then Justine said that without an oven, you get to improvise. You guys are giving me an idea what the prompt is. We're going to give each other good ideas of things to cook for the holidays, like just like a little something, something. So last live, I asked you to give me ideas for next year's mystery knit along. So I've traditionally done a mystery knit along in October the last few years. It's traditionally been a cowl. There were some really good ideas in there. The runner-up being Cowl Boy and Cowl Girl. That's going to make me laugh for a long time. I'm not sure I could do that because I just worry like the trope of the cowboy and the cowgirl and what happened to the first peoples who lived here before the European settlers came. I don't think I'm going to play with that. Doesn't make me feel comfortable, but it's really funny. Cowboy and cowgirl. Another one that came up with Bee-tober, to do something that's like all bee focused and like Bee-tober, kind of like a little be here now theme. I like it. But another one that was pretty good was spicy cowls, because Lola can be spicy at time and the options could be mild, medium, and hot. I could roll with spicy cowls. That would be super fun. Like, what spice level are you this clue? So that one was pretty funny. And then somebody else suggested a laid back sloth theme, just kind of lean into being sloths for Cowltober. And then somebody else had a beaver theme, LOL. So I love a beaver theme. You know I want to do a beaver theme, but Magpie Fibers already kind of has like that beaver genre covered with a bunch of different beaver colors that they've done. So I wouldn't want to step on toes there, but Laws, a good beaver cowl would be amazing. Max is cracking up. Laws. Um, so I the winner is Beth Clausen 2573, and she thinks next year's Cowltober should be wolf themed and we can call it Howltober. So yeah, Beth, you win. That's a good one. So get in touch with me. You are getting that gorgeous skein of Jill Draper Make Stuff High Plains in bottle. And I have it ready to send out to you as soon as I hear from you with your address. And now it is time for me to say goodbye. I think you, what? Oh, there's a question. Oh, good one. Two questions. My moderator behind the camera is helping out right now. One question was news about 2025 excursions. Thank you, Laura. I totally forgot that I said I was going to talk about that. So Barcelona Knits is happening again next year in November. They have not firmly set dates. They think it's around a similar weekend, which would be the 15th, 16th of November. So I will be doing another tour to Spain. It will be similar to the one that I did this year because I know many of you missed out on that because it filled so very quickly. So it'll be similar to what I did, but a little bit different because I learned some things that I would want to do a tiny bit differently second time around. I try to keep things fresh for myself as well. So Spain will be in November. As soon as I have dates, I will let you know what those dates are for November. And then in March, I am taking the cruise to South America. So those are my two international trips for 2025. And then in March of 26, I'm going on a cruise to Portugal with the Grocery Girls and Kim from Indigo Dragonfly. And then I'm working on my other plans for 2026. I would really love to take a group or two to Faro because I basically just want to move to Faro. So I was thinking if I just move there and then you all come see me there, that could be a really great way for me to get paid while I'm in Faro for a while. Max just heard that plan. But next big trip will be Spain next November. And I don't have the prompt for you yet, Susie, because I haven't even told you what the winner is yet. The other question was from Kathy Trinkle. How much yarn did I use for the Boublay I'm wearing? All of that information is on its Ravelry page. And it was two Freya minikins, which I think are about 70 or 80 yards each. And I used almost all the yarn. I just had a tiny little bit left over when I was done. Great question, Kathy. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's all the questions. So let me give you the prompt. And your prompt is going to be, do not leave this in the live chatter thread. Wait till the live is done and leave it in the comments below. Your prompt is going to be, what's your favorite sweet treat to make or bake for the holidays? If it's unbaked, even better because my oven's still broke. So let's say your favorite unbaked treat to make for the holidays, just to make this a little bit trickier for you. And the winner is going to win a Barcelola kit of their color of their choice. And what that means is I might choose the winner whenever the kits release so that I'm sure to hold your color for you. So I'm going to choose the winner probably in the next 10 days. So leave a comment soon. Don't wait till right before the next live comes out. And I thank you so much for watching. We went way over an hour. We're going to call that one an hour and a half. Whew. I'm ready for a snack and a cup of tea. Have a great night. Thank you so much. Happy knitting.